business requirements for the network 20, 25 years ago were wholly different than they are today. Today, we have to think about not only the business requirement of the network, but moreover, the approach to securing the network. Most enterprises today, especially ones that have been around for 5, 10, 15 years or more, their network was designed by people and architects and run by people and architects and operations and network engineers that were all brought up in the world from let's build a network one certain way and protect things one certain way and do this one certain way. A very common topology in networking, for instance, is a star topology where all the sites come into one center point, and that center point disperses the information back to those sites, right? And that center point is controlled by a firewall or by intrusion detection systems or all of the above, right? The problem is now is that those big WANs, and even in the LAN topology, wide area networks and local area networks, even in those topologies, those connections aren't really needed anymore, because you think about cloud computing, you think about, hey, I've got all my stuff on OneDrive in Azure or in Google Documents, or I consume Microsoft 365 as a service, or I consume my CRM application as a service. So these are software as a service, and they're all coming from the cloud. And all of a sudden, when everybody seemed to go to one place to get their applications, that's not the case anymore. Now they just need an internet connection, and they can go anywhere they want to with that. Well, that, again, when you talk about the network, there's two things you got to think about. One, the network is never going to go away, because we can put anything anywhere we want to, but you still have to get from point A to point B, right? So that network is a incredibly critical component, right? And for everybody out there that says, hey, I'm on wireless, I don't really have, any kind of physical network connection. Well, you do, because that wireless access point or that cell tower connects to a wire somewhere on the background, right? And goes to that network. And so that whole path, enterprises have to think about that entire path now. 5G is gaining a lot of momentum in enterprise, right? Business 5G is gaining a whole lot of momentum because of the promise of what 5G can bring to businesses, right? Speed, connectivity, reliability, et cetera. But what you have to think about now is between the end computer that has this wireless card in it or this cellular card in it, to the point where my data is, or my application is, or where I'm accessing a DocuSign, for instance, there is a lot of in between there, and that therefore there is a lot of opportunity to get in between there with the bad guys, right? So, think about going down a street with a lot of stoplights. At each stoplight, a bad guy has a chance to come up and say, give me your money, right? At each time you have to stop. Well, that's essentially the way the network is there's many, many stops along the way, and each point of those are vulnerable. So as an enterprise, you have to think about that. And you have to think about the older technologies like VPN, for instance. You say, is that as effective as it needs to be? Is that as effective as, and meet the business requirements of what I have today versus, again, even 4 or 5 years ago? Right?